Hey everybody, welcome into Studio 3 for the preview show. I'm Alex Weaver here with Marty Snyder from NBC Sports. Now we saw Kevin Harvick dominance at Michigan. Has he found the strength that they had back in 2018?
I don't know if it was dominance at Michigan, but they were fast at the right time. And certainly for that race team, they're getting hot at the right time too. And I think when you look at their season in 2019, it's been a long road back. I mean, certainly at the beginning of the year, they were way off, went down a few roads, kind of guessing at what this package needed. And they didn't get a lot of things right, but they've had that in the summer. They've had the speed they've needed. They've done all the right things, and Rodney Childers has put them in position to win a couple of races here in the last few months. But when I look at that race team and talking to Rodney Childers about it in victory lane, they're certainly rounding into position to be one of the championship contenders. When you look when the playoffs are coming, Kevin Harvick's developing speed at the right time, and I think Stewart-Haas as a whole probably has a little bit more to gain, but I think the Ford team certainly is showing that they're going to be a championship contender, and they're doing it at the right time. Kind of reminds me of what Joey Logano and his team did last year, right?
They
found speed. They won the championship. I think Kevin Harvick and his team certainly in that conversation.
All right, well, every single race we're talking about that cutoff line and the shake-up between that bubble. We're 3 races out now from the playoffs. I think we're going to be talking about it for the next 3 weeks.
I think so.
So let's take a look at who from Michigan moved up. We had some heavy movers like Ryan Newman and Daniel Suarez. Out of those 2 camps, which one do you think kind of gets in?
Well, I love what Ryan Newman and his team continue to do, and that's that they just finish. So when I look at the races left in the regular season, these are kind of grinded out. You got to be there at the end races, and Ryan Newman and his team certainly are among that group that does that better than anybody else. You look at Bristol this weekend, they'll be very good there. Darlington, certainly probably one of the toughest races of the year, and then Indianapolis, you got to have speed. And I look last year, the 6 team, Matt Kenseth was in the car last year at Indianapolis. They ran great. Daniel Suarez and his team have done the right things, though. They put themselves in position, and they took a big leap forward this past weekend. They gained a lot of points at Michigan, and that's big for that race team. Bristol's a very good track for Daniel, probably underrated there. I don't know if Darlington's their best racetrack, but Indy could be a very strong track for Stewart-Haas Racing. So of those guys, I like Ryan Newman the best. I just think the way they've been able to get finishes at the end of races, put themselves in position to finish top 10, I think Ryan Newman and his team have done the right things, and I like where they're headed, certainly. And their ability to gain the finishes at the right time, that's key for that team.
And it's like you said, they have flown under the radar.
Right.
They just finished the race.
They don't gain a lot of stage points, but they finish races well.
All right, well, as we know, what must go up, some must come down. So some heavy movers down, or the 48 camp of Jimmy Johnson, who did not need that day, and also the 14 of Clint Boyer, who didn't need it. Out of those 2, who are you worried about?
Well, I think the way Jimmy Johnson and his team have operated, I certainly like what Cliff Daniels has done with that race team. I just don't see the speed, and I don't see a racetrack where I can go, hey, Jimmy Johnson could go and win there. Bristol, pretty good there. Darlington, pretty good there. Indianapolis is really going to depend on how the car is. But when I see Clint Boyer and his race team, I see speed every week. I see mistakes. I think that team, if they can just finish to their potential. I think that's the biggest thing with Boyer and his race team, talking to Clint, talking to Mike Bugaravich. They need to quit making mistakes and bad calls on top of the pit box. They need to quit making mistakes on the racetrack and putting themselves in position to get in a wreck. So I think those are the big things with that race team. If they can finish to their potential, Boyer can be not only in the playoffs, but make some noise in the playoffs. So to me, I like Clint Boyer's position much better because they have the speed to be able to back it up. They just need to finish races.
All right, well, we're going to be looking to the 48 and 14 over the next couple of weeks to see where they go. But let's look ahead to one of my favorite weekends of the year. We're going night racing at Bristol Motor Speedway. What can we expect from the last great Coliseum?
Well, it's certainly a bull ring, and I think there's a lot of drivers right now that are not happy with other drivers, and this is the place where you can pay that back, no doubt about it. And I think a lot of that's been put to bed over the last few weeks, but, you know, as we call it, what do we call it, bent fenders and hurt feelings, and that's probably some good racing on Saturday night. But Bristol's certainly a racetrack where you can get some aggression out, and I think, you know, when you look at Bristol and who runs well there, a lot of the championship contenders run well. There's also a lot of dark horses that run well there. Eric Jones runs well. Ryan Blaney runs well at Bristol. So I think there's some guys who will be in the mix that aren't normally in the mix. I know Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and his team think this is their one shot to be able to go and get a win in the rest of the regular season. So I think there's a lot of teams going to Bristol with a lot of high hopes, thinking, hey, this is our shot to be able to make our way in the playoffs.
All right, well, the tempers and the sparks come out at Bristol Motor Speedway. I'm interested to see who has the longest term memory and can remember some feuds
very,
on the
very
track.
good point. Yes, very good
All right, well,
point.
let's make our picks for Bristol. Who are you going with on Saturday night?
I'm going to go with Kyle Busch. I know he's got two guys that are sort of mad at him and his former employees, and
I don't think
William
he cares.
Byron and Bubba Wallace. I don't think he cares. I think when you look at who's fast at Bristol, Kyle Busch is excellent at this racetrack and really had the fastest car in this race last year. Got in an early wreck. They kind of had to recover from that all evening long. And I remember at one point, even though he had gotten in that early wreck, he still had the fastest car on the racetrack. So Kyle Busch, winner there in the spring. Always an easy Bristol pick, in my opinion. I think they still have that speed. He and Adam Stevens have something magical at Bristol. I'm going to go with Kyle Busch this weekend.
Good pick. He ran there last night race, and I don't think
Yeah.
he had but half of his car left and still
Right.
finished in the top 10.
Right,
Good
exactly,
pick.
yeah.
All right, I'm going to stay with kind of a surprise winner, a little bit of a dark horse. I'm going to go with the 20 of Eric Jones to get it done.
Like it. I think Eric Jones is excellent at this racetrack. They always pointed to Bristol. This race is the one they could win.
All right, Marty, appreciate you being here. Appreciate you guys watching. When drivers circle this race, you know it's bound to be a good one. It's America's Night Race coming up from Bristol Motor Speedway, 7:30 Saturday night on NBCSN. We will see you guys right back here in 2 weeks. Next weekend is an off weekend for Cup, and we'll see you guys right back here in studio for the Southern 500.